Hey, 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 what do you say? Welcome to Teal Time with Hope. I'm the host, Hope. I hope everyone is doing well and staying hydrated in this horrible summer heat that we're having. Today, I have another guest from the organization STAAR, STAAR. And she is a lady that I don't know too much about, but I've already started to get to know her, and she sounds so dope. I'm really excited to introduce you to Miss Ellie Habib. Welcome to Teal Time with Hope.
Hi, Hope. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for giving us some time. And with that, would you like to let the lovely listeners know who are you, where are you from, what are you about, and please share your story?
Absolutely. So, my name is Ellie. I am 32 years old. I live in New Jersey with my husband and my 9 month old and our two dogs. I am a low grade serous ovarian cancer survivor. I am on the board of directors for STAR, as you mentioned, and I also run our research committee. So that's a really important part of what we do. Obviously, when researchers are applying for grants, our committee is looking at what our priorities are and what we want to fund in the coming year and looking at those applications. So, obviously, a huge part of what our organization does. So, I have been involved with STAR since shortly after my diagnosis. I was diagnosed in January of 2021 when I was 27 years old. That came following years of symptoms. So, like many people who have late stage ovarian cancer, I had many emergency room trips, many specialist trips to different doctors, liver specialists, gastroenterologists, lots of different testing, a lot of you're too young for this to be anything serious, a lot of it's in your head. Have you spoken to your psychiatrist? A lot of just, this is what being a woman is like, even from gynecologists. So, a rough road to diagnosis for sure. But once I got diagnosed, I feel like I hit the ground running in terms of trying to learn everything I could about my disease, trying to find a community of people who knew exactly what I was experiencing. And being a part of STAR has not only helped me find friends that understand me on a level that no one in my life before or after cancer ever can, but it also gives me something to work towards that I feel is so. I am investing my time in my future by fundraising with STAR. I am directly impacting the money that funds studies that could save my life. So I feel very deeply connected to STAR and its mission, and it's a huge part of my life as a low grader.
Wow. I mean, there's just so much for me to like unpack with just the beginning of your story. Being you were 27, and with my previous Meredith and with Kari, that's with you, your organization, people are being diagnosed younger, and you being so far the youngest that I've had on the show. I just think that's just wild because we're seeing younger and younger people, and I know there's studies showing that. But what really is crazy for me, Ellie, is that it's in your head. This is what women go through. This is just part of the course, I guess. And you're like, but I know, right? Like you knew something was wrong. And
Exactly.
you're over here trying to figure it out. Like, unlike my story. My story is just I ignored all the symptoms. I did everything to where the point where I looked pregnant and it was just almost too late. And so they look at me at the ER and go, something's wrong. But you were going through this like process of trying to figure out what was wrong. And as far as like symptoms, can you talk a little bit about what your symptoms were?
So, in the beginning, probably the first symptom I remember was at least 2 years before my diagnosis, maybe closer to 3. And it was just urgency to pee. I just felt like I would be at work and I felt like I was going to the bathroom way more often than I was. And it would be a very urgent feeling, like something was pressing on my bladder. I went to a urologist because I was like a 24-year-old woman who did not have a UTI. There was no reason. There was nothing to explain the symptoms, and they were persistent. So I'm the kind of person that goes to the doctor. I don't ignore things. So I was checking on it. It was, I got a workup or whatever. I don't even remember exactly what they did. And then I kind of just accepted it and moved on. After that, it really started to be more of gastrointestinal symptoms. So a lot of like a fluctuation between constipation and then diarrhea. tons of bloating. I felt like everything I ate, I just, like you said, like I would look pregnant. Also, I was struggling with an eating disorder at the beginning of when I was first diagnosed. So I wasn't eating during the day. And yet I was bloating to an extreme. So I would go to doctors and I would be honest. I would say, I haven't eaten. There's nothing to explain this bloating. It's painful. There is something going on that is not food related because, of course, they wanted me to try low FODMAP diets and elimination diets and gluten and all of the different things. And I was saying, like, I don't eat those things, trust me. So I think I went to 3 or 4 different GI doctors. I was living in Manhattan at the time with my now husband, who was my fiance then. Finally, I went to a woman, a female doctor. She at least didn't dismiss me. She at least like tried to treat me. She told me I had IBS because yes, that was like what the symptoms suggested, but at least she gave me medication. She sent me for further testing, did try to get to the bottom of something. She understood that I was coming back to her office time and time again with something persistent, but unfortunately she just did not know to link it to ovarian cancer. Had she, perhaps I could have been diagnosed a little bit earlier because she wasn't dismissing what I was saying. She just did not make the connection. So after that, I kind of just accepted that I had IBS and I would randomly not fit into my clothes. It would just be, my body was all over the place with bloating until the summer of 2020. So we were in lockdown for COVID, obviously. And I just started noticing that I could not keep my eyes open while I was just having a conversation with my husband. I would actually fall asleep to the point where I remember a conversation with my mother-in-law where I told her that I think I have narcolepsy. Like I am falling asleep mid-conversation. I am that tired. That was when a doctor said, I think you're probably depressed. You know, we've been in lockdown, you're depressed. That's what it is.
Obviously, it must be that. No,
Because
don't
I'm a
look
woman and
elsewhere.
I don't know how to manage my feelings, right?
Exactly.
I said, you know what? I am a little bit depressed actually, because we are locked in a 1-bedroom apartment, but I also am falling asleep mid-conversation with my husband, who I love. And I am not bored of just hanging out with my husband all day in lockdown. Trust me, this is my dream. I'm not at work. I'm home. Why am I falling asleep? I don't know. A couple months after that, the biggest next change that really sparked me not taking no for an answer was I started having pain during sex. So again, I had already been with my husband for years at this point. So I knew what things felt like, and I knew that one day they were now painful. I would have bloating that was visible after sex. So after sex, we would literally watch my stomach inflate with air. It was so painful. And we took a video one time to show doctors because they just were not understanding what we were saying. They were not believing what we were describing.
So you were having that pain during sex, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you actually saw that your symptom is like whack. Like, holy
Mm-hmm.
cow, I'm glad you were, did your part to even record it to show, look, this is not in my head. It's not in my husband's head. This is real. And here's the proof. Here's the receipt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so what went from there?
So after that, I went to my gynecologist. I explained everything. He took me somewhat seriously. He said, you probably have endometriosis, but it was kind of like in a brushing aside sort of way of like, women get endometriosis and it's painful. And like, you've been on the pill for, I think at this point had been 13 years because I had heavy periods right at the beginning of puberty. And he said, that really reduces your risk for everything. It's endo, let's sit on it for a couple months. Again, it was the pandemic. So doctor's appointments were kind of like, you weren't really going for things that were deemed unnecessary. But then there came a day when I had excruciating abdominal pain and I went to the emergency room and they did a CAT scan and they saw that there was something on my liver. And they sent me to a liver specialist. So I went to the liver specialist for an MRI, and this was September of 2020. He saw a spot. He didn't call it a tumor. He saw a spot on my liver, and without biopsying it, just from the MRI, he said that it looked like I had an STD that went untreated and and had gone up to my liver. And I said, "Excuse me, I've never had an STD, but even if I had, that is not the way to just like, it was very much like blame, like you had something, you left it untreated, and now you have a spot on your liver." And I was like, "No, you are going to investigate what is wrong because I have never had an STD. And there is no explanation for this." So he said, "Let's rescan in 3 months." December of 2020, I had another scan. The spot had not changed. I went back to him. He told me there was nothing to do. He said, "It's fine. It didn't change." I went to my gynecologist sobbing. I said, "You told me it might be endometriosis. Everyone is gaslighting me. All these things I'm experiencing are connected. Something is wrong with me. I need you to figure it out." So he sent me to a fertility clinic to get an exploratory procedure for endometriosis, which I did. That was in December, the very end of December of 2020. I had a laparoscopic procedure to explore the possibility of needing an excision of endometriosis. And instead, they found a mass that they biopsied. And that fertility clinic called me 2 weeks later to tell me that I had low-grade serous ovarian cancer and that I needed to immediately transfer my care to a cancer center,
Holy
which was
cow,
shocking.
Ellie. Holy cow. I mean, you honestly, I just want to say, like, that sounds like something that you would have heard in the 90s or the early 2000s. I was diagnosed in December of 2011. This is 9 years later, and it's like, they don't know what ovarian cancer, they don't know, and you're a specialist and you're a gynecologist. And it's like, it's one thing for us to not know what to look out for if we never have heard of ovarian cancer, but for the actual doctors to miss so many misses, that it took all
So
of
many
that.
misses.
And the STD thing, I cannot stand when I hear that doctors want to dismiss women and just want to say, "Well, you got an STD," or, "That's on you, girl." And it's
Right.
like,
There has to be some like element of shame they want to attach to it when that just has absolutely nothing to do with it. And even if it did, it's just so disrespectful.
it
It's
really
just so
is.
disrespectful.
In the 21st century, we're still dealing with that, but of course, I digress. So it took the fertility folks to be able to catch it, basically.
Yeah. Yep. Which was extra triggering and I didn't even know it yet. But this was, because now I was about to lose my fertility, but I didn't know that yet. A whole roller coaster was about to follow that I, never could have predicted. So again, now this is January 2021. I'm 27. My wedding has already been postponed once due to COVID. And it's rescheduled for September of that year. And now I have cancer at 27. And not only do I have cancer, I have stage 3C, low-grade serous ovarian cancer. When I messaged my gynecologist and said, "Oh, so thanks for sending me to the specialist because I actually have cancer," his response was, "Oh, it's low-grade. That's good." So there's just so much misinformation and just lack of education. And I called back all of the specialists I saw, of course, to tell them that the way they treated me was unacceptable and that they needed to educate themselves. I had just been diagnosed with cancer, that what they had said to me delayed my diagnosis and threatened my life. And the liver doctor, he called me probably 4 or 5 times after that. I think he thought I was going to take legal action. I wasn't. I just wanted him to
To be
not do that
aware.
to the next woman. Exactly. So I don't expect every doctor to know every single thing, but I do expect you to be honest when you don't know and to tell your patient that and to send them to someone who can help them. Because not everyone is going to know everything, but you need to own up to the fact that you can't know everything and listen to your patients and help them figure it out.
And job well done, I will say, Ellie, for you standing up for yourself. And that's actually a recurring theme that we want to put out there. Is like, women, you have to stand up for yourself. You have to be your own advocate, because we all just tend to believe the doctor and just, "Okay, well, I guess I'm okay," and not say anything because doctors know best. But for you to
Exactly.
say, first of all, A, and then B, and then later even message them and call them up and say, "Hey, I got cancer now." And this could have been, at least gotten caught in the early stages if y'all may have listened to me more, or just took the time to say, okay, I don't know. Like you said, be honest. If you don't know, you don't know, but you could send me to somebody that might know. Well,
Like,
they want us not to Google things. Don't Google and be MD Google. But actually, if I Googled stuff, might have found more than with the doctor.
100%, which should not be the case at all. We should be able to trust our medical professionals, and we should trust our medical professionals. We should have a team that we feel supported by. But sometimes you just have to kind of shop around until you get that, because you need to feel heard as a patient. And that is definitely something that continues through my story. So right after I got that pathology result, I made an appointment with the major cancer center near me at Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York City. I was referred there immediately, saw the doctor within a week, and was ready for my surgery probably a week after that. But when I first arrived, got my CAT scan, got the staging, they kind of talked me through everything that was happening. Truly, the only thing I was hearing was that I was losing my fertility. I did not hear about the threat to my own health and life and safety. And I just was so hyper-focused on losing my fertility. So that really was what guided all of the discussions. But I have to say that MSK, they are extremely equipped to handle that. When I called to say I've been diagnosed with cancer, they have an intake team. You just call them and say that, and then they kind of take it from there. They paired me with my surgeon because he specializes in fertility sparing. So I had staged surgery. So instead of having one debulking, I had 3, so that I could take one ovary. So my first surgery was to take the more impacted ovary out in January of that year. Then I did IVF egg retrieval. So I left one ovary knowing that there was still tons of cancer all over my abdomen. I made the decision to do IVF egg retrieval. So my surgeon did explain the risks. Obviously, going through IVF treatment, your body is going to have a lot of different hormones, which we had already known by that point would increase the growth of my cancer because it's estrogen and progesterone positive, receptor positive. So estrogen and progesterone used in fertility treatments would speed up the growth of my cancer. So he explained those risks, and I just felt so motivated to have fertility sparing options, whatever that meant. Ideally, I really wanted to still get pregnant. I wanted him to leave an ovary, and I was going to immediately try to get pregnant. And I just thought, let the cancer grow while it's inside me. I don't care. I'll have surgery the second I give birth, and that's, I'll be fine. I was clearly in a mental block where I could not accept what was happening, because I just would try to find solution after solution about like how to get around it. I would say like, no, then I'll have the surgery first and then I'll get pregnant, or I'll have the surgery and then I'll implant my own embryo into my own uterus and get pregnant. I was trying so hard to make any possibility work where I could carry a child. And I mentioned earlier that I was struggling with an eating disorder at the time of my diagnosis. What pushed me into recovery from my eating disorder was the fear of losing my period, was the fear of losing my fertility. I was terrified of not becoming a mom. And I was terrified that if I had continued to do damage to my body, that I would not have had a normal period and that I would not have had a healthy body to grow a child. That was my motivation to stay alive previously. And now I was back in a situation where I was using that to motivate me to live, but it was kind of making me not see what I actually needed to do, which was take care of myself.
Right.
So it took me months really to really come to terms with it. And I did not remove my second ovary until May.
So when you were diagnosed in what month?
January.
So in May, you didn't
Yes.
remove. So you had you had the first one, and the second one, and the third one was May. Was that how it went?
So I had the first ovary and fallopian tube removed January. February, I did IVF egg retrieval. March, I had my open abdominal debulking surgery where they removed all the tumors, et cetera, et cetera. And then I healed from that. And then in May, I had the last ovary and fallopian tube removed after finally accepting the fact that I needed to let it go.
Because it would have just gotten worse, I would assume, because it was stage 3.
It was engrossed.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, it was completely unhealthy. The ovary was unhealthy anyway. There was disease all around it, especially after the IVF treatments. Like, the disease had grown so much around the ovaries in that short time that there was no way that I could have survived having kept it. But I was so afraid to accept the finality of losing my period. And even at that moment, I still had this glimmer of hope. My oncologist told me, if you were NED for 5 years, that maybe we could try to implant an embryo in you. But I would have been in menopause for 5 years and on an aromatase inhibitor for 5 years, making my uterus extremely unhealthy and, again, risking my life to become pregnant. Now I have way accepted it. I know I will never be pregnant. I have a beautiful baby, regardless of having not carried her. And so now I'm on the other side. But in the moment, it was absolutely devastating. And I was more than ready to risk my own survival to try to make that dream a reality.
At the sake of your own life, basically.
Yes.
Because in a way, it was like tunnel vision. You're like, wait.
It was tunnel vision.
Cancer can, whatever. Damn, cancer. I'm going to have a child at whatever it cost. And then you kind of almost wake up to realize that the cost of my life. I mean, how can I have a baby if I'm not even alive?
Exactly. And I needed to have that realization of, like, I am not being logical. I'm being emotional, which, of course, I just have been through this extremely traumatic, unexpected event that is completely uprooting my life. But if I am risking my own health, I can't then be a mother. And so what is the point? Just to be pregnant? I needed to remove pregnancy from motherhood. That was really what I saw. I know that there are many ways to become a mom, and I would love to adopt a child.
In a way,
Yes.
Ellie, was it always your dream since you were
Exactly.
a child to always have your own child? And now that dream is being taken. And you didn't want to let go of it and admit that that's a reality, I think.
Exactly. I had just pictured motherhood as starting with my own pregnancy. That is what I envisioned, and it was extremely hard to let it go when I felt like it was being ripped from me so violently.
Yeah.
But, I could have just as easily gone home and cried to my husband about all of these fears. But instead, I said them straight to my surgeon, and he presented me with new options because of that. He could have just said, no, we're removing both ovaries today. I said no. And I am 4 years NED. I advocated for myself. My surgeon heard me, worked with me, validated my values. And as a team, we came to the conclusion of 3-stage surgeries. And now, like, all of the cancer has been removed. But I could have just as easily accepted what my surgeon said, kept my feelings to myself, and just accepted that I was losing the chance to even do egg retrieval right from the beginning. And I think that the thought of anyone being put in that position and not feeling like they have the right to advocate for themselves makes me sad. So I want people to know that they should speak up for what they want from their medical team and work as a team. They are your team and you're part of the team.
Absolutely. And I think it's quite remarkable. Stories are so different. And I have never heard a story like that was even a possibility. And the fact that you were so young at 27, right? Like, okay, when I got diagnosed, I was 40, right up to be 41. And my specialist was amazing. We're friends to this day. She's a professor out in Oklahoma. What's up, Dr. Richardson? But she was very blunt with me, right? Because it was a very different situation. She's like, this is an aggressive cancer and we have to handle it aggressively. We are going to take all your reproductive organs out. You will not be able to have children and you need to be okay with that because this is very serious, basically. I didn't grow up dreaming of having children. I just never did. And I was like, well, okay. I had already, like you, history of bad menstrual cycles, blah, blah, blah. And I even wondered like if it would be even possible. But at the point, I looked 9 months pregnant. I was like, I don't want this. I don't want, what's the alternative? For me, the alternative was, okay, don't do anything and probably die very, very soon. But to hear your story, being so young and to be able to let the doctor know that you've always wanted to be a mother and, you still want to be a mother and for the doctor to work, like you said, as a team, because you spoke up, because you were transparent and you didn't stay silent. You didn't just nod your head and go, whatever, you know? I think that kudos to you, honestly. And the fact that they could work with you and they could do something that I didn't even know they could do, Ellie. I didn't know that they could do that. So that's why it's so important for you to get your story out there, because there could very well be women that will hear this story and go, wow, if that should ever happen to me, I know I have a story of a woman who spoke up and they were able to make it to where she could have a child, even if it wasn't naturally from her. And that's the amazing thing with medicine and all the things that we have today. And by the way, just backtrack, because I'm sure there might be, but wait a minute, how did you, what? I don't understand IVF, or I don't understand how were they able to how do you have a kid, Ellie?
Yes. So, you go to the fertility clinic and they prescribe you all of these medications that trigger your ovary to produce way more eggs than it normally would for a cycle. If I'm understanding it correctly, it's also been 4 years. So you do all of these hormonal injections and you go for daily monitoring every day. You get a transvaginal ultrasound and they monitor the follicles growing on the ovary and they see kind of like how many eggs they're expecting, and they're tracking you and they tell you the precise moment you have to give yourself that final shot before your procedure. It is to the second. You show up at your egg retrieval, they remove the eggs from your ovary, and then, it's kind of your choice from there. So I was about to get married, so I chose to create embryos with my husband. You can, of course, just freeze your eggs. You can freeze embryos. We went through counseling. You have to go through genetic counseling, and you go through some psychological counseling during the process. I went through RMA, Reproductive Medical Associates of New Jersey. They are wonderful. They are amazing. And they counseled us on the fact that embryos statistically thaw healthier than eggs. So we decided to just go ahead and freeze embryos. So my husband went, provided his sample. They have my eggs from the retrieval. And then in the lab, they start to create embryos. And over the 3 to 5 day period of them becoming embryos, they are grading them and seeing which ones are most likely to result in a successful pregnancy. Then they send those to all have their genetic testing. And then they kind of, from there, you have a final number of how many you have that have passed all of the rigorous testing to now, here's how many you have that can be frozen and saved for later use. So we were lucky enough to end with 5 embryos, which is incredible for one round because I only had one round of egg retrieval. And then we ended up with 5 embryos. And one of those we implanted into our incredible surrogate, our wonderful gestational carrier. And she was pregnant immediately with my daughter. And I was there from the moment that the embryo went into her uterus. It was beautiful. And thanks to surrogacy, I have a biological daughter. Her name is Madeline, and she's 9 months. She looks exactly like my husband, which is very frustrating.
That's
But
amazing, Ellie.
I just cannot believe I am on the other side. I am overjoyed. And I can't believe that I had the strength to go through what I did. And looking back, I don't know if I was presented with that same situation now, if I would react the same way. But I'm so, so forever grateful that I did, because I have my girl.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. That in itself is just quite beautiful and quite amazing to know that though it didn't go the way that you had grew up dreaming that you would have your own child, you have your own child. And it was because you had the forthright to talk about what, again, go back, you spoke up, you said these things, and this doctor heard you, and they worked with the team and they made it possible. I don't know a lot about IVF and all of that stuff, so it's really cool hearing you describe it all and how it works. And it just kind of, I don't know, the word hope is what kind of comes to mind, that there is hope despite the trials and tribulations that the devastation of cancer can put us through, is that there is still some semblance of hope that we can hold on to.
Absolutely. She is a symbol of hope. She really is, because we made a choice to wait until I was 2 years NED before beginning the surrogacy process, just to make sure that I kind of got over a little hurdle of You're most likely to have a recurrence in that time. That's what my oncologist had told us. We kind of just chose to wait for that. But every single day, from the time I was diagnosed until the day she was born, I waited for her and thought about her. And the thought of having her one day got me through chemo, continues to get me through the pain that I experience every single day, from my jaw all the way down to my toes from my medication. I don't care how many times my knees crack when I get on and off the floor because I'm playing with her. She is the motivation to live. She is my
Right.
motivation to live. And I grieved for so long that I would not be pregnant. And I continue to grieve. It's not to say that it's just, now I have my baby and it's all great. It is wonderful, and it's way more joy than sadness.
Sure.
And that's amazing. But even, I'm at music class with her and the moms are talking about their pregnancies or their deliveries. And I will always feel a little bit out of place. I will always get that little knot in my stomach, or like feel my eyes well up with tears, because we're different in that way. But Maddie will always know where she came from, and she will know her story, and she will feel proud of it. And we feel proud of it as parents.
Oh, absolutely. She was brought into this world in a way that is different, but she makes her even more special, considering that her mommy went through something so devastating, and she still has her mommy, and you have those
Yes.
memories. And she's a bit of a miracle as well, because that's not normal to have a child in that circumstance, right? Going through late stage ovarian cancer, low grade serous cancer. To know that, what you've overcome, she's what drives you to keep moving. You have something so special that I think helps to understand, like, what drives you. Well, look at this girl. This is, of course I love my husband, but look at my little baby. This girl right here is literally the apple of my eye, right? And
Yes.
so I can imagine when you were going through chemo, because it's the wretched, horrible, excruciating chemo that we have to go through. There is that I'm going to have a child one day, and
Mhm.
this is not my end. This is just I'm
Exactly.
just passing through this chapter, and it's so remarkable that you're on this other side. And congratulations for being 4 years, Ned. And I
Thank you.
remember that. I remember, like, the doctor's like, 2 years is one of the first markers, and then we make it to
Yes.
5 years. And nobody knows what's going to come. Nobody knows tomorrow. All we have is today, and what we got through from yesterday. And how we got to where we are today, and what drives us. And I'm just so happy to meet you and meet another survivor, bonded by Teal, as somebody once said. And also, I forgot to ask you, if it's okay, did you have any clue about what ovarian cancer was before you were diagnosed?
Not a clue. Not a clue. And I even said to my gynecologist, there really should be a poster in your waiting room that has the symptoms of ovarian cancer, because all the times I was sitting in your waiting room to complain to you about my symptoms, if I had been reading that, it might have clicked.
And today we still don't have those posters.
Right.
I'm like,
Everybody knows to feel their breasts on the first of the month. You know what to look for. I remember being taught as a young girl at the gynecologist what to feel for. I don't know if that's a common experience, but I had that as like a 14-year-old. And I've done that ever since. I know how to watch for breast cancer, but we have no education, no awareness, and that is what we are hoping to change.
and that, by the way, is a good segue into why you are with the STAAR organization. And if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit of how you got involved with them.
So right after I was diagnosed, I started following STAAR on Instagram and messaging with one of the founders, Jess. And I knew that I wanted to do a fundraiser. And I decided actually to have a fundraiser at my wedding. So that September at my wedding, I was bald at my wedding. It was right at the end of chemo because we did not want to postpone it again. And we raised like $5,000 that night for STAAR. I just like, all right, I know that this is the beginning of me being involved with STAAR, and I'm never leaving. So from there, I started volunteering. I was the chair of the fundraising committee for a while, but 2 or 3 years ago, maybe now, I joined the board of directors, and it has just been absolutely incredible because, like I said, some of my closest friends are from STAAR or have low-grade serous ovarian cancer, and I feel such a connection to these people and to our mission, and I my doctors have assured me that my daughter has no increased risk of ovarian cancer or breast cancer because there's no genetic link for mine. But I don't want any doctor to ever treat her the way I was treated, and I don't want her to ever feel like she doesn't have the information about her health that she needs to have. And so as a mother and as a patient, I will continue to advocate for awareness about ovarian cancer and for funding to support studies that are actually trying to get to the bottom of how we can fight this chronic disease.
Right, absolutely, and I mean, what better motivation? It's like, I don't want the same for my daughter what happened to me, nor do I want it
Exactly.
for other women, and we
Exactly.
have to let women know what this is. Age doesn't matter, it's not an old lady's disease as we used to think, and how can we make it better? And the billboard T-shirt and the fundraising and the research, and like Kari did say, like, y'all are all about the research, and I think that's just so dope. Do you feel like it's made a difference? Obviously, you know you're making a difference because you wouldn't stay in an organization that wasn't, right? But
hmm
how far do you think you've come from awareness from 4 years ago? Do you feel like there's more awareness, or we still need to keep pushing for more?
I would like to think that there's been a difference. We always need to push for more, and that's the goal. But I would like to think that there's been a difference. I at least know personally from friends who have told me that they've pushed a little further at their own gynecology appointments because of my situation, or they've even brought up, well, I have a friend in this position, so that their doctor doesn't dismiss them. So I do think that just speaking about our experiences brings so much awareness. And I think that in terms of the funding as well, what I love about STAR is that we're not relying on anything from the government. Everything that we use to fund is directly from donations. So every dollar, because we are volunteer run and operated, is directly supporting research. And on our committee and our board of directors, we ultimately decide which grants we choose to fund each year. So we are receiving applications that are going to investigate different pathways involved in low-grade serous ovarian cancer so that they can inhibit certain pathways, or we're looking at combination therapies, or we're looking to understand the cells of LGSOC a lot more. So the applications that we get are cutting edge in our field, especially because low-grade serous ovarian cancer is relatively new compared to other types of ovarian cancer in terms of it being its own diagnosis. So I feel that every single dollar that gets donated to STAR I truly feel makes a huge difference and will continue to make a huge difference in our lifetime.
That's wonderful, and the fact that you are separate from government funding, right, is truly great, especially in the time we're living right now, because you're not being, dictated with what you can do or can't do, or funding is not being taken from your organization to help with research, and so that's so important, and that's another reason, I'll put a link to your organization. Again, it doesn't hurt to continue to do that. And
Thank
when I
you.
post it on Instagram, of course, it's all about hashtag sharing is caring. It's one of my go-tos. And also, knowledge is power and awareness saves lives. And so I thank you again for sharing your story. And I want to make sure you get back to your 9-month-old beautiful baby soon. And what would be some of your, I don't know, advice? Because people don't know about low serous ovarian cancer like myself. I didn't know. I've
Mhm.
heard of the other ones, clear cell. Of course, what I had was epithelial. And so, what would be some of the things that you would want to like pass on? I'm sure you mentioned some, but like a summary of some pearls of wisdom that you would give to anybody that's listening right now.
I think listen to your body and listen to your heart and what you want, and make sure that you are being heard. And if you are not being heard, find someone that will hear you. Because what you have to say and what you're feeling and what you're thinking in a situation that is wildly traumatic for you, your voice is what matters. All of the professionals are there to support you, but ultimately, every step you take is your decision, and you should feel empowered to take control of that. That could mean making sure that you push for further information from pathology results so that you can find out. Some people are just told you have ovarian cancer. Well, which type of ovarian cancer? Taking the initiative to find that knowledge and make sure that you have all of that knowledge so that you have the power to make the decisions that you want to make. I also think just make sure that you find a community. Anyone that wants to reach out to me specifically, like Hope, please feel free to share my information, but
Definitely.
find a community on Facebook, on Reddit, on Instagram, on anything that you can find to connect with people who have experienced what you're going through, because most likely none of your friends can relate. And we're happy that our friends can't relate, but we need people who do.
I'm glad you pointed that out, is that one thing you and Kari have said is that you found a group, right? You found your community, you found your people in a way that you never would have dreamed of. That said, you do have that. And it sounds like you are really close. And it sounds like it's a really great thing to have, is those people that can really understand. Nobody can, right? It's like you can't. As much as you love me and as much as you want to be there for me, you won't ever understand what I have gone through, continue to go through post chemo, post all of that, unless you yourself have been in it. So if there's anybody out there that ever finds themselves in a diagnosis such as yours, there is a community for you. And that's why I like to pass on the Instagrams and the Facebooks and stuff like that, so you don't feel like you're alone. And
And it's never too late to find those communities. I think a lot of people think that once we've completed treatment, or, even if we're on maintenance medication, that we should be over it, so to say, or that we feel better, that we're fine. And every single aspect of my life, my body, my emotions, every single minute of my day is impacted by cancer. And I need to be able to text someone about what's helping their joint pain, what can help my joint pain, but also just to cry to someone who gets what it's like to feel like your life is in danger from a disease that has no cure. You need to be able to laugh with them, but you also need to be able to sit and just be with someone who gets it.
Yeah, to be real, because that is a really good point. It's like we're different. We're
Hmm.
changed. We're changed people. Doesn't mean necessarily like a negative thing. Is that we are changed. We have been changed. And to deny that, I don't know if that's healthy. Then there's the mental aspect of it, right? What we go through with the mental health aspect of it. People have anxiety. People have depression. People have PTSD. How do you navigate life? And knowing that, okay, I'm not going through surgery, I'm not going through chemo, but now there's always in the back, for me, I've always said, there's always in the back of my head, could this be cancer coming back? If I get a little pain, is my abdomen feels weird. And, I have had it 3 times, but even for people who have only had it once and have been, cancer free for 10 years, they still might feel that. I don't think
Of
it really
course.
goes away. So it's good to have. That's a good point. Just because you may be out of it doesn't mean that there's not a group for you or community for you.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you saying that, because that's that. I think a lot of people think that, oh, you're done, you're good, right? You're over it. Life is 100%. And you're like, and you have to be real and honest. I've had to learn to be honest. It's like it's okay to not be okay. And
Exactly. Our loved ones want to know that and support us. We just need to be honest and open because they can't understand. Again, thankfully, they can't
yeah.
understand. But, when we want support, we have to be clear about that, I guess.
Yeah, be open and not be embarrassed, or even if you go get therapy, right? There's
Hmm.
sometimes you need more than just your friends or your community. You
Oh,
might need a
absolutely.
professional.
I think
Um,
everyone should be in therapy.
I personally do. I say that all the time. I said, I don't know what human does not need to be in therapy that's a certain age or an older, but
Yes,
most especially
agreed.
most especially people who have gone through something quite traumatic. So, yeah. And the last thing I was going to say is, did you ever think that you would ever find yourself in the world of advocacy? Everybody does this voluntarily, or they're all
Yes.
volunteers, and you have your own profession outside of this. Is that correct?
Yes, I do.
And so when you were younger, did you like, one day I want to do volunteer work? Or did it just like, because you were in it, you're like, I need to be a part of this?
I think it's just being in it. Maybe I am a little bit of an advocate naturally. I am a teacher of the deaf. professionally. And so I am definitely an advocate for my students in meetings and such, or families that I work with. And so maybe it's a little bit of my personality, but I'm also quite shy and reserved. And so now that my face is just on everything that has to do with low grade, yeah, that's not really like me. So I am a little bit surprised at how much of and in the world I've become, but I wouldn't change it because I think we're doing really important things.
Yes, and, it's I think we said before we started recording, we're a part of a club that we never wanted to be a part of or thought we would ever be, but it's about what we're doing with this membership, and you're doing some great things with that membership, and I know when your daughter gets older, she's gonna be just remarkably proud of her mama because people don't understand that you could have taken this and just got into a corner of sadness and blackness and depression and never came out of that. But instead, your face is everywhere and you are advocating and you are pushing for more awareness and you're being a voice for those who unfortunately have passed away because of this illness. And we're being a voice for those who are no longer with us so we can help save lives.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Thank you
thank
for the
you.
beautiful words.
Miss Ellie Habib, thank you so much for your time. I'll say that over and over again because time's a gift, and you allowed me about an hour or so of your time, and I appreciate it. And maybe in the future, we'll have you back on as a guest, and we can share more things. September is coming up, and what's the special date, by the way, for September for low grade?
Yes, September 9th is low grade serous ovarian cancer awareness day officially. So wear teal and help us in spreading awareness about LGSOC.
Awesome, awesome. And can people still? I wondered, can you still get a T-shirt?
There may be some sizes that are unavailable. I would look on our website.
So there might be a chance that people can still get a T-shirt, y'all, just to let you know. If you're interested in becoming the live billboard for this wonderful organization, I will put the link to their website so you can look at it. And if there's a shirt available in your size, I definitely recommend, helping out. People always ask, what can I do? Is there anything I can do? And it's such a small thing that can make such a big difference. So, yeah, that's all I got for y'all today. This has been Till Time with Hope. I am the host, Hope. And Ellie, thank you so much.
Thank you, Hope.
You're very welcome. All right, y'all, until next time, take care, be well, God bless. Bye for now.